Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv after speaking exclusively to President Trump hours ago. Trey, we hear the sirens.
Yeah, hey, Brian, good morning. Overnight, I spoke with President Trump for about 20 minutes as he traveled back to Washington from Florida, getting some new insight on the commander-in-chief's thinking about Operation Epic Fury, the success so far, and what he thinks about Iran's new supreme leader. I asked him about Mojtaba Khamenei, and he said that he's not happy with this selection. He goes on to say, I don't believe he can live in peace. And as the president spoke about the new leadership selection in Iran, he also gave some new details on the timing of this operation and why it needed to take place when it did. He said, when we attacked them first, we knocked out 50% of their missiles. And if we didn't, it would have been a much harder fight. He goes on to say, no other president had the guts to do it. I don't want some president who hasn't got the courage in 5 or 10 years to go in. President Trump making clear that by taking this action, he believes that within 3 days, if he didn't order these strikes against the Iranian regime, that Iran would have attacked first, and if they were able to get a nuclear weapon, they would have used it. Now, I asked the president whether or not he's open to talks with the Iranian regime, and he told me that he's hearing they want to talk badly, and he goes on to say it's possible. Depends on what terms. Possible, only possible. You know, we sort of don't have to speak anymore, you know, if you really think about it, but it's possible. And so the president, as he did leading up to this operation, is leaving open the door to diplomacy, understanding that the Iranian regime is getting hit hard right now when it comes to their military leadership and also their infrastructure. The Americans and the Israelis have gone after the Iranian Navy, they've gone after the army and other positions across the country, and right now they are decimated. They're losing their ability to fire missiles and drones, and at this point, as the president told me, he said he is hearing they are ready to talk. Guys?
So, Trey, now that you know, the president talks about them being decimated, are you seeing less frequency of drones and rockets in Israel?
Absolutely. We are seeing far fewer missiles. It was actually a 10-hour lull in launches overnight as the Iranians are having trouble getting off large barrages. And the president even said there were times over the past week where they fired dozens of missiles at a single time. And he told me there were moments where 100% of those missiles were shot down. And so what the United States has been able to do here, according to President Trump, is basically take out Iran's ability to respond. And while there are still missiles flying toward Gulf countries and toward Israel, their ability to attack these countries and U.S. forces in the region is being depleted. And the president told me that he was actually surprised when Iran launched these attacks against Gulf countries who were not attacking Iran. But it just speaks to how unstable the regime is and how unpredictable they are. And that is why the president is concerned about this new leader selection, Mojtaba Khamenei, understanding that he is the son of his late father, the man who was killed in the opening strikes of Operation Epic Fury. And he's also considered a hardliner with close ties to the IRGC.
Get out of my dojo, goat!
Jerry, you've got to stop using the go character. You're going to get us in trouble. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care anymore, ladies and gentlemen. They tried to assassinate President Trump. They tried every conceivable way, and now Iran is threatening to assassinate President Trump, along with proven assassination attempts from the FBI. Today, we have a breaking story on the show. It is Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. New FBI lawfare against Donald Trump pops off, uncovered that you were actually the target. Do you know the FBI actually seized, most likely, your records? Have you gone to a MAGA rally? Did you wear a red hat once at Walmart? Did you one time put an American flag bumper sticker on your Ford F-150 and go fishing? Do you know the FBI most likely targeted you? John Solomon will be joining our show live for his breaking report. 4 counterintelligence operations that targeted MAGA supporters today. And what does America First look like on the global landscape? General Flynn will be live on our program today, countered by Rand Paul. Shall we put them both together on the show? I think that'd be fun. perhaps we should do that, ladies and gentlemen. Iran threatens to assassinate President Trump, but President Trump has the last laugh by dropping an EMP on Iran. Did we use space laser weapons last night? President Trump promised he'd use lasers. We have some insane footage for you. The night sky in Iran looking like sunrise. It's a crazy moment. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. Thank you for bearing with us. Yesterday, I had to attend to some family matters. We didn't have a show yesterday, but I just want to say we just profoundly appreciate the love of this chat and this audience. We show up for you. You show up for us. We're going to fight to save this country together, and at the very least, we'll be able to tell our kids we did something. We fought. We did our best, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep fighting. I got to tell you, there's been some remarkable new information about Iran. President Trump saying that Iran now wants to negotiate. Multiple breakaway regions in Iran saying that they are going to now declare independence. It's quite fascinating. It's all fast moving. It's all a bit stressful. I was very stressed out yesterday. And, well, ladies and gentlemen, bond charge helps me out. When you come home and you just have had enough, especially when you've had enough of the little, who else works in a little black box? I work in a black box. Who works in a black box? Ladies and gentlemen, when you've had enough and you need that beautiful red light therapy, that red light's so good for your skin, so good for your health, so good to make sure that you are chilled out if you have a bunch of little kids at home like I do, and they're bopping you in the head. I hung a swing this morning, actually, another swing. This is what I was doing this morning. Got up and I was like, I'm going to do something nice. I'm going to do something good for the neighborhood kids. And so I went to a tree that kind of sits in a little grassy area of the neighborhood, and I hung up a swing. And I said, okay, there we go. You started the day by doing something nice. Now carry that forward all through the day. That's bond charge, baby. Their bond charge sauna blanket is exactly how you should revitalize and relax at the end of the day. Bond charge ships worldwide. All products are HSA and FSA eligible. Pre-tax savings of up to 40%, plus free shipping on every sauna blanket and 12-month warranty. Go to bondcharge.com/Benny. Use the coupon code Benny and save 15%. BONCHARGE.com/Benny. Use coupon code Benny to save 15%. All right, I got a couple of blind items for you this morning, which I find is absolutely fascinating. The CNN post that just went up kind of shows exactly what. Oh, and here's an ALX take. Always go with the ALX take. ALX quote tweeted CNN. They've deleted a tweet, but this is incredible. I didn't plan on starting off here, but why not? Everybody's talking about Iran. Yeah, we're gonna have to show the actual proper tweet. Thank you. There it is. Thank you, Klein. Everyone's talking about Iran. And everyone's talking about why you can't have terrorists over in Iran. But ain't nobody talking about why you can't have terrorists here in our country. It is why, with every single time that we mention Iran, ALX, am I right on this? Every time we've done a read about Iran, every time we've done a story about it, we are constantly telling people here in our homeland to keep your head on a swivel. What has been done to our country? What has been done to the demographics of our country, the harmony of our country, the social health of our country is a crime against humanity. We used to have a country that believed in itself because we had a common cause. The vast majority of the country was Christian, something to the effect of 90+%, all the way up until the 80s, 90s. The vast majority of the country, by design, shared a similar heritage, similar value system, shared a common language. We did not have an influx of foreign and alien ideologies into our country because that makes for a bad country. And that's the point of immigration, is actually to keep alien ideologies from creating friction and to disrupt a harmonious system in your nation. You can't have harmony when mothers feel scared to walk their kids down the street. It's a very simple test. Do you feel like you can take your kid to the public park in your town. Now, this is a test that can be passed or failed, depending on where you live. But this is the test of, do you have a functional society? Do you live in a functional town? If your public park is filled with piss-soaked vagrants and bums, if your public park is filled with out-of-work degenerates sitting around smoking weed, if your public park, which is the intention of the point of your public park, the point of a public space like that, is for the flourishing of families, so the American government can have more taxpayers born and bought in, so we can run a country, and not a welfare state for the third world, field an army, have resources, create great minds, continue our people and our great story, our incredible story, the most incredible people to ever live, quite frankly, I would argue, like without a doubt, like America in the last 250 years, the most incredible nation and people to ever live. Stand proud, be proud. The purpose of that place and your neighborhood and where you're raising your kids is security, safety, and to ensure that we can make more Americans. If your parks, like in every single big city, in every single Democrat city, I live in a big city, I live in Tampa, our parks are immaculate. You can eat off them. You never see a bum. You never see a degenerate. Somebody starts smoking weed, they'll be run off by like the dads. Dads will get their belts off, whipping people. Seriously, it'll happen. I've watched it happen, actually. Like, people don't tolerate it around here. I live in a town filled with like cops and like veterans, military people. It's where CENTCOM is. Anyway, what's the point? The point is that what happened in New York this past weekend, and we didn't have a show yesterday, so we didn't really cover it, but perhaps you could grab me a photo or two, I'm sure we have it in the show, is children of first generation, I believe, legal immigrants, but brought over here from foreign lands with foreign and alien cultures, incongruent and inharmonious with Western civilization, decided to throw bombs, nail bombs. I call them an IED, okay? That would be the wartime description of the IED. These terrorists, 18 and 19 years old, these terrorists were radicalized by ISIS and threw bombs at a peaceful protest. There's a peaceful protest against Islam. If you can't protest Islam, it's not America, okay? Then our founding documents mean nothing. You have a right, and if you feel it in your heart, an obligation to protest Islam in our country. Like, it's America. Oh, I thought this was America. It is. And that's what's going on in New York. There's an anti-Islam protest. Okay, totally, like, absolutely that's allowed. And frankly, it should be encouraged in a free society. People protest all the time. Sometimes you disagree, sometimes you agree, whatever. It is what it is. You shouldn't die in your protest. And that's what the ISIS Islamists who were legally brought over here, who were coddled by our nation in order to create a circumstance where they would throw the bomb, where they would throw these bombs. Oh, we got better photos than that, boys. Where they would take these bombs and throw them at a protester. So this is like exactly the point that we've been making. There's like an unbelievable series of photos here, and also an unbelievable video, my favorite video of all time. A lib screaming, "We need more tolerance, we need more tolerance," as the bomb is literally thrown over his head. There, here it is. Perfect. Thank you, boys. We need more tolerance. We need more tolerance. We love and tolerate people. Listen.
Everyone here to stay in New York. You don't get to come from outside and then tell everyone else.
Yo, this nigga threw a bomb, bro. Yo, he threw a bomb.
Screaming, like, so white lib sitting there with a bullhorn saying, "We need tolerance. We need to bring in more outsiders," as a guy yells "Allahu Akbar" and throws a nail bomb, an IED. By the way, the authorities have determined that these bombs contained a very potent explosive. They weren't just dummy bombs. They weren't just glass jars filled with nails. That's bad enough. They contained real explosives, and a real shout out to the NYPD officers. You can see here in this sequence of photos, the officers who, by the way, like, were the ones who had to apprehend. They're all black. So it's like amazing how the Black Lives Matter conversation like collapses when it's a black cop and a nail bomb thrown by an ISIS Muslim teen. It's remarkable. Insane photos. Check out these black cops, like the bombs rolling around at their feet. Frankly, it's them. It's these cops, these officers right here, who are the most at threat. Yet you hear nothing from these people. You hear nothing from feminists about Iran. You hear nothing from the BLM crowd about these cops. They're not going to be venerated. There's not going to be t-shirts with their faces on them. There should be. Look at this. You hear no one disavows these individuals, these terrorists, these homegrown terrorists. And this is why you need to have the full conversation. Yes, terrorism is bad in Iran. It's way worse here in our country. How do you get rid of terrorism here in our country? You stop bringing in absolute hero right here. Look at this. The officer runs towards the danger. He hopped the fence. He jumped the fence. I think we know this officer's name, if we could. This officer jumped the fence to chase down the ISIS terrorist. Chief Aaron Edwards wears blue. God bless you, Chief Aaron Edwards. The guy throws a nail bomb at him, an IED. The little Muslim terrorist throws an IED at this black cop, and the cop charges him, chases after him, beats him down. What have we said on this program before? Like, this is, by the way, compatible with the raw teachings of Islam, because you're not allowed, of course, to insult the prophet. You're not allowed, like, what was happening is Jake Lang was posting an anti-Islam protest. If you read the actual scriptures, if you read the actual commands, Muslims aren't supposed to tolerate that. And depending on how you interpret it, and there's plenty of interpretations. I don't pretend to be some scholar. But, like, free speech isn't allowed. That's been made very, very clear from Charlie Hebdo all the way through. Obviously, so many terrorist attacks, you can't count them all, name them all. Free speech is not allowed. Free association, not allowed. Freedom of religion, not allowed. So, like, why should we shouldn't be surprised when this happens. Because the, like, radicalization, okay, fine, but, like, this is commonplace in the Muslim world. And so you need to, like, have a very thorough and very critical conversation. Elemental. It's like the enemy is here at home. And the policies that did this. We talk a lot about illegal immigration. What about the legal immigration policies that did this? We legally brought in 150,000 Afghanis. No idea who the hell they are. Brought them in here, throw them on welfare. This show broke the news of a dude who's from Syria. He's an Uber driver in Dallas. He's talking about how he's going to use his car to do a huge car bomb. That guy got arrested. We were the first ones to break the video of him talking about, like, how he's going to use his Uber, to bomb a building in Dallas. That's what he said. He said it live on TikTok. He was brought here. He didn't run across the border. That's really bad. And obviously, all we ever do is talk about how terrible the open border was. It's insane and suicidal. But this is worse because now we're, like, the American taxpayers paid to bring in the Afghani who shot the National Guardsman and killed her on the streets of D.C. a couple months ago. How quickly we forget. All this was done legally at our expense. So if you're going to go now, like, lay waste to the third world, don't be shocked when the third world that's already here comes and lays waste to us. We've constantly said, you have to keep your head on a swivel. You should train. Get armed. Anyway, why does our show exist? One, for that, like, little rant right there. Sorry about that. Wasn't planning on doing that. ALX is like, oh gosh, here he goes again. We miss a show and we just miss talking about this stuff. The reason why we had to do the rant is, like, it's like a preface of, like, what the show is all about. Like, what if Elon Musk hadn't bought X? What if there weren't, like, podcasts like this? What if there weren't streams like this where we could actually, like, speak the truth? This is what CNN. Okay, so Zorhan Mandami comes out, makes a statement that these guys, that it makes it seem as though the ISIS terrorists were part of the anti-Islam protest and that it was a hate crime against him. This is Antichrist stuff. It's the exact perversion, absolute polar negative of the truth. It's Antichrist stuff. Give me the Zorhan Mandami quote. And then this one from CNN is great. Please keep this up. Listen to how CNN framed this. Terrorist attack by ISIS. ISIS teens attacking Americans who protest Islam. That's what happened. It was captured in 4K. There's no doubt. Now these guys are being charged with terrorism charges. I know Pam Bondi tweeted about it yesterday. You can get me the charges. So like bona fide, legitimate, caught in 4K terrorism, legally brought here by the idiocy of administration after administration that allowed unquestioned, unchecked migration here from the third world. Here's how CNN frames this. 2 Pennsylvania teenagers crossed into New York City for what could have been a normal day, enjoying the city during abnormally warm weather. First off, that's just horrible writing. Normal, abnormally. Who's writing this? ChatGPT wouldn't make that mistake. Anyway, but in less than an hour, their lives would be drastically changed as the pair would be arrested for throwing homemade bombs during an anti-Muslim protest outside of Zorhan Mandami's home. Here's what we know. Do you see what they do here? Do you see why things are so dangerous right now? Do you see the propaganda? I mean, these guys have just been bought. CNN was just purchased by Paramount. Paramount's run by some pretty right-wing people. It's run by certainly not I don't know if they're full hardcore MAGA, but they ain't going to tolerate this. These people are getting fired. CNN actually just said they were getting fired for writing this. Break this down really quickly. This is why we do the show. This is why we do the show. This is sick. This will get more people killed. This radicalizes more people. The next Muslim terrorist reads this and says, CNN will write a puff piece on me. Enjoying a lovely day in New York, I just happened to throw a couple bombs at a protest I didn't like, and they're blaming the cops for arresting me. Can a couple ISIS terrorists just throw a few bombs without having to worry about being arrested on a nice day? Why didn't CNN just write that headline? That's the headline. Could a couple of ISIS, could we want some shawarma? We just want to smoke a hookah. We just want to do a call to prayer and throw a couple bombs at people, at infidels. Can't an ISIS terrorist just have a nice day in the city? What is wrong with this country? Can't we, ISIS terrorists, just throw bombs? It's our culture. Our culture is not your costumes. We just want to throw bombs in peace. It's a beautiful day outside in New York. We want to kill 50 or so peaceful protesters and NYPD cops. Can you just lay off us? This is what the CNN headline. This is what CNN is asking here. Oh, it makes my head explode. CNN got dragged so hard that something happened that we've never seen before in our lifetime. Maybe this might be one of the last times you ever see it. CNN actually posted and said, yeah, we did a bad thing. A post regarding 2 individuals arrested for throwing homemade. How about ISIS terrorists, homegrown Muslim ISIS terrorists for throwing homemade bombs outside of New York City, Zorhan Mandami's home, failed to reflect the gravity of the incident, thereby breaching the editorial standards required of reporting. Therefore, it has been deleted. It's amazing. They still have the article up on CNN that has the exact same lead. So they're not actually sorry. These people are they're begging. They're begging. Begging to get shut down by Ellison and Paramount. This is a great example. This is just a perfect example. This is why we do what we do. This is why it is critical to fight the information war. What's the update on this? Here we go. From the DOJ. We have charged the 2 ISIS-inspired terrorists with attempts to bomb a protest in New York City. We will not allow ISIS poisonous anti-American ideology to threaten our nation. Our law enforcement officers will remain vigilant. Look at that photo. Look at the photo. Isn't it perfect? At the first one there, Klein. That's just perfect. There's the ISIS terrorist chucking the bomb over the head of the simping white lib. It's just perfect. I mean, hang it. Kind of, it's gallows humor, but like hang it in the Louvre, man. Like, this is the result of open borders, suicidal empathy. Suicidal empathy. This is what it's called. Suicidal empathy. And then the amount of blaming. I mean, look at this. Check out this article. Zorhan Mandami blames white supremacy for radical Islam attack. Look at that. You made them bomb you. You made them bomb you. And the FBI was attacking Christians under Joe Biden. This is what the FBI was being used to. These individuals were building pipe bombs, building bombs. Thank God they didn't, go off. These glass canisters had within them explosive charges that were intended to kill and could have slaughtered 50 or more. A miracle. We witnessed a miracle. Praise God. We witnessed a miracle that these didn't go off. If this had happened to any other group of people in any other city, it'd be the biggest story in the world. If these guys were Christians, Christian nationalists, of course, everybody, the media would require everyone to to apologize, to rend our garments. But no, nobody can, not even the mayor of New York, radical communist Muslim, says anything about it. Mandami, here from Breitbart, Mandami condemns white supremacy protest, not radical Islam, after ISIS-linked Muslim bomb attack. Get out. Just get out. Get out. New York is cooked, man. New York is cooked. The FBI targeted Christians, not these guys, not these goons. They targeted Christians and went after you and little children for praying in Catholic Church. The FBI targeted Christians during the Biden era. They targeted Trump. And now we know that they targeted you simply for supporting Trump. This brand new report here from John Solomon at Just the News. Trump targeted by 4 FBI codenamed counter-intel probes that ensnared hundreds of Americans. Again, it's not just Donald Trump. They're after you. The old meme, right? The old meme. Gentlemen, producers, John Solomon is asking me just for a little bit of help jumping in. Obviously, we want John Solomon, who's an absolute legend, to join the program. He's just a message sent to the producers. So please, Danny and ALX, hop on in. Here we go. Top line. Okay, great. Thank you. Hop on in. Top line. President Donald Trump and his supporters were targeted by 4 consecutive FBI codenamed counterintelligence investigations. Last decade secretly subjected hundreds of innocent Americans to privacy invading tactics. Did this happen to you? You may be due compensation. You may be eligible for compensation, potentially. Essentially threatened the man, twice elected president, as a national security threat for most of his first 9 years. So these guys are throwing bombs. ISIS teens are throwing bombs brought here into this country, but it's Trump who's a national security threat. FBI Director Kash Patel has personally led the effort in the operations, codenamed Crossfire Hurricane, Round River, Plasmic Echo. Okay, I mean, come on. Arctic Frost that stretched in the summer of 2016, January 2025, uncovering evidence of far-reaching dragnet. Some cases have been predicated on false, misleading, or uncorroborated justifications, of course. Many of the investigative files were hidden from view, even from most FBI agents, because they were marked prohibited access and controlled carefully by FBI leadership. Patel was searched and has been aided by whistleblowers inside of the agency, a handful of senior bureau executives, members of Congress, Chuck Grassley, for instance. Okay. Joining us right now. Okay, great. Thank you, guys. Joining us right now is the man who broke this story, along with so many other critical stories when it comes to ripping apart this rotted edifice at the FBI of corruption, the great John Solomon from Just the News, to talk about this live right now. John, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you could join us.
Good with you, buddy. Yeah.
I am stunned in reading this. I have no doubt that the FBI has all my text messages to my wife from the grocery store, from Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
What kind of bell peppers? The orange ones? Like, it's going to be very interesting. But there's no doubt. So you say that hundreds of Americans in this article potentially were illegally surveilled by the FBI in 4 different Get Trump operations that are all named after strippers. It seems like every one of them named after cheap strippers, especially Plasmic Echo. Okay. We need to get better at these little naming, their nomenclature. Anyway, John, please, the floor is yours. What an unbelievable article.
Thank you, my friend. First off, I'd love to meet the guy who names these investigations. Where does he get his names from? I mean, it's just crazy stuff. But behind the names are very serious issues, and that is that for basically the entirety of the first 9 years of Donald Trump's career, he was repeatedly treated by the FBI, including his own FBI, on his command, as a national security threat. And that is a remarkable thing to think about. The American people twice elected President Trump, said they trusted him to be president, and the FBI was trying to prove he was a national security threat, disloyal to the United States and compromising American national security. That's what a counterintelligence investigation is predicated on. The first one was Russia collusion. We know what a silly one that is now. But at the time, if we wind back to 2017, it felt pretty serious. And lots of people's reputations and lives were ruined by that investigation. Carter Page will never get his good name back, even though there's strong evidence to show that he wasn't only a naval intelligence officer, he assisted the CIA, and that was used against him to make him look like a Russian stooge. Then we know the last one, Arctic Frost. In Arctic Frost alone, according to the information that Chuck Grassley recently made public, nearly 400 conservative groups and people were targeted, including TPUSA. So large numbers of people and organizations were targeted in that. What was the crime in that case? It was a national security threat to assume that President Trump wanted to submit alternate electors in the 2020 final certification to the Senate. Now, I just want to wind back and let people know that Sam Tilden did that in 1876 and John Kennedy did that in 1960. Neither man was put under a counterintelligence investigation that I can find, nor were they prosecuted, nor were they charged with any crimes. Those are the bookends. In the middle are the 2 ones that we only knew about as a result of these, my most recent reporting. Round River looks at anybody who dared to speak that Hunter Biden might be doing something corrupt in Ukraine, or his father might have taken actions in Ukraine as a national security threat, as Russian disinformation. It is a speech-driven counterintelligence investigation. I think when we're done getting those documents, and those were only found by Kash Patel's people in the last few weeks, they were hidden out of view. They're still being declassified. I think they'll go to the Senate and to Congress and to the American people soon. But imagine the idea that the FBI deems you a threat just by what you say in a country where we were told our First Amendment protected us against such things. That case starts with Rudy Giuliani, and it fans out over time. I learned about it in 2022 vaguely because I'm suddenly informed by the Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney's Office that I'm a criminal subject of an investigation. I'm like, what? And they're like, oh, yeah, that stuff you were doing with Rudy Giuliani was real bad. And I'm like, sir, that's not what happened. And so my lawyers went to the prosecutors and said, all right, your theory of the case is that Russian spies gave this to Rudy Giuliani and John Solomon wrote about it. And that's what we think. And then we came in and said, actually, I was recused from dealing with Rudy Giuliani. I was at the Hill at the time when I did my stories on Hunter Biden. He was seeking a commercial podcast deal that I was negotiating with him. I formally recused myself. I literally wrote a document to the Hill saying, I'm not going to take any source information from Rudy Giuliani. But here's where I did get my information on the Hunter Biden stories the FBI's counterintelligence files. And I turned over through my lawyer all this information that the FBI had given me about Hunter Biden. The government realized their entire theory of the case about me was wrong. And at that time, it was becoming very clear that what Joe Biden called in my reporting conspiracy theories was, in fact, very true. And they dropped that case like a hot potato. And I was told at that time, hey, there was some larger probe. You should go find out about it, John, because your civil liberties might have been violated. And that set me on a 3-year path to find what we now know to be Operation Round River. And then the last one, which is the third of the 4. So it goes Crossfire, Hurricane, Round River. Last one is Arctic Frost. The one is called Plasmic Echo. Yeah, it's the strangest name in the world, right? But it has serious stuff. Why? We now know from that case that the FBI got the phone records of its future FBI director and President Trump's future White House chief of staff, and went even further. Allegedly, if the transmission of information from the FBI to Congress is true, they actually listened in on a phone call of Susie Wiles, the future chief of staff, with her lawyer. Now, her lawyer says he didn't give consent for any such thing. So if those things happened, these names, which are laughable and funny and we can make fun of, really serious civil liberty implications in all 4 of these investigations. They've been coming out in such fragmented ways. What I wanted to do today, Benny, was put it together at 30,000 feet so people can see what it is. The FBI tried to treat President Trump as a security threat for 9 years, and people around him have their civil liberties clearly infringed. Now, whether it's justified or not, I think the courts will hopefully be allowed to decide that soon with what's going on in Florida and the grand jury down there.
Yes. So you can, of course, find this full and massive and thorough report here on Just the News. Pop the article up one more time.
Thanks, my friend.
The line in the lead here, John, that is the most alarming to me is that Kash Patel doesn't have access to these files, or that they have been scattered to the wind. You know, I was under the hilariously naive, sweet summer child impression here, John, that the FBI director would know what's going on at the FBI. But that's turned out to be fundamentally, foundationally untrue. So what do you mean when you write here that that prohibited access kept the FBI from learning about the FBI?
So in these politically sensitive investigations where we now know they were targeting people close to the president, lawyers, like people around the president were lawyers advising him, advisors, movie makers, journalists, they're all considered special circumstances subjects, meaning they're supposed to get a higher degree of review before any investigation occurred. What really happened, particularly during the Chris Wray era of the FBI, is that they declared these cases prohibited access files, meaning they're not put into the normal case file system called Sentinel, where the FBI keeps all of its cases. And, you know, where a director should be able to go in and say, hey, I want to know everything about John Solomon and Round River, and it should just pop up. But in fact, they created these cutouts from the system, and they were kept in skiffs, and they were hidden from public view. And even a director, if he wasn't read in, a future director, wouldn't know they existed unless a whistleblower came to them and said, hey, boss, you won't believe what we did before you were director. We got your phone records, which is exactly what recently happened with Kash Patel, according to the reporting. You have agents down at the rank and file.
I'm sorry, John. Wait, you're saying that FBI agents whistleblew to Kash Patel that they were surveilling Kash Patel?
They did. Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
So Kash was under potentially illegal surveillance by the FBI?
We'll have to see what the justification was. Yeah, we don't know yet. We're still getting these records declassified, but it would seem pretty odd that a man got confirmed in 25 to be the FBI director. Obviously, there was no criminal activity, or he wouldn't have been the FBI director. They were looking at him. Same thing with Susie Wiles. She's never been charged, but they got her phone records and were listening on her phone conversations, according to the data that's now been made public. There is an amazing set of letters that Senator Chuck Grassley wrote during a time when the legacy media ignored all this. He had these whistleblowers coming to him during the Biden years saying, you won't believe what's going on. And those letters that Senator Grassley wrote, many of them very vague because they were classified information, are now the foundation for what I think is one of the great scandals of American history. It's going to be a civil liberty scandal, and I think when the declassifications are ended in the next few weeks, we get them all. We're just going to be scratching our heads saying, "I can't believe the audacity of what the FBI did in the name of trying to get Donald Trump."
So how would you classify Donald Trump as a national security threat? Like, what would be the underlying basis for that? He has the highest conceivable possible clearance, right? He keeps that clearance for the rest of his life. He's protected by the Secret Service, so it's not like he's going to go to Russia, you know, and like have some secret, you know, like whatever, whatever. You know, and so he's not a Biden, you know, he's not going to go meet with the mayor of Moscow and get a bunch of rubles. Under what conceivable justification could you make Donald Trump a national security threat?
Well, that's really a great question. Let's remember, everybody, the report that the Biden Justice Department released from John Durham. They could have blocked this report. They didn't. They allowed it to come out. The first justification was that Donald Trump was a stooge of Vladimir Putin, conspiring with him to hijack the 2016 election. We now know that was invented by Hillary Clinton, the Democratic National Committee. But the most important words that John Durham wrote in that report that Merrick Garland allowed to become public was there was an iota of evidence that that allegation was true. That wasn't true. Now let's go to Plasmic Echo. Let's just jump around and have some fun. The allegation is that President Trump had classified documents at Mar-a-Lago that posed a risk and that he took them there in violation of federal law. At the very moment that they look at Donald Trump's storage of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago, they know another guy currently in office did the exact same thing. Actually, had it by his Corvette in his car garage in Delaware, Joe Biden. Joe Biden is not treated like a national security threat. Only Donald Trump, even though both men had similar circumstances that really just revealed a weakness in the system, that when they box up presidential records, they don't pay attention whether classified or not. They can end up in a president's bedroom or garage. So you start to look at this, and in each circumstance, you see that Donald Trump is treated in a nefarious way, and someone like Joe Biden or Hunter Biden gets treated in a kid gloves way. What was the allegation of a threat against Donald Trump in Round River? He and his lawyers were daring to question the Ukrainian government about Hunter Biden, about something that, oh, wait a second, turned out to be 100% true. He did get paid by the government. Joe Biden did pressure the prosecutor to be fired. He did so against the recommendations of the State Department. It turned out to be true. All right, let's go to the last investigation. What possible thing that Donald Trump possibly do that would warrant Arctic frost? He did what John Kennedy and another presidential candidate in 1876, Sam Tilden, did. Dared to submit alternate electors during an elections dispute, which prior to Jack Smith coming along was treated as a right to contest matters before your government, something that was protected in the Constitution, but not Donald Trump. Donald Trump had to be treated like a criminal. That's how they defined him, as a national security risk.
Very quickly here, John, I just didn't know that you had been ensnared by one of these. I forgive me for my ignorance, but what do you plan on?
I don't talk about it much.
Do you plan on pressing charges? Do you plan on,
so people know?
Are you considering any type of action since your civil liberties are violated?
Not yet. I think the first thing is to get all the facts out for the American public. That's my first job as a journalist. I don't think we're there yet. I think we're about 30% of the way there, but I think the avalanche is coming. There is a lot of work that's been done, and keep an eye on the U.S. Attorney's Office in Miami. They're starting to do some really important work. I think that'll be important. And I think the next place that this goes, Benny, yesterday there was this, subpoena and search warrant in Maricopa County about elections, but I think you're going to see a similar pattern on elections. You're going to see the United States government saying Russia meddled in the election to help Donald Trump, but China never did that. And yet, when we see the evidence that's released by the intelligence community, you're going to find out China did exactly what Russia did. But for some reason, because China wanted Joe Biden, they wouldn't call that interference when they would always call what Russia did interference on behalf of Donald Trump. That dual system of justice also becomes a dual system of intelligence, and that's very bad for the future of security of our country.
Yes, I just very briefly here, John, I know we're up against a hard out. Your take on Maricopa County, you're saying that what's going to happen is we're going to find out the Chinese had a major heavy hand in rigging election? What's your take on the raid yesterday in Maricopa?
Yeah, it wasn't really a raid. It was a grand jury subpoena, but they grabbed the stuff. There will be some search warrants executed in the coming days based on my reporting. They're looking at, in Maricopa County, it's a very technical thing, just like it was in Georgia. Did you follow state law? Because if you didn't administer a federal election as it was supposed to be under state law, you can be charged federally. It's just about doing the right thing and following the law. But above that, not in Maricopa County, not in Fulton County. There is an extraordinary review going on by the CIA director, the FBI director, the director of national intelligence, so Tulsi Gabbard, John Radcliffe, and Kash Patel. They have found a body of documents that I think will trouble all of us and probably will have a profound effect on the Senate debate over the Save America Act. A lot of senators are sitting up there saying, I don't know if I need to vote for this. I don't know what the politics is. Wait a second. When they find out that maybe voter identities in their state databases were penetrated by China and used in influence operations, that may change their mind. And so I think the debate in the Senate could be informed by what comes out in the next few weeks.
Oh, fascinating. Oh, that's so interesting. We've often covered how there's, every once in a while, there's this little pop of like a Chinese student that voted in an election.
Yeah.
Too bad we can't go get the vote back. There's 1+1 for Kamala. There's a canceled Trump vote. And if you're able to find 1, 2, 3, or 4, like all across the country, how mass spread is this? If you're able to catch them, and then they always get smuggled right out of the country, right? They get a visa, they get a secret visa, flown in, they get smuggled back to China. Like, bro, that's an op. Like, John, they're doing an op. Like there.
Well, remember what we broke in November, Benny. You were kind enough to cover it at the time. The FBI intercepted thousands of Chinese fake driver's licenses coming into the country, and their own informant in China, the FBI's best informant in China, told them it was an effort to get those licenses here so they could fill out fake ballots that would help Joe Biden win the election. That's what the FBI document shows.
Oh, man. I cannot wait for the top to get blown off. That can of worms. Yeah. If you know how to do pattern recognition, you'll do great in this life. That's all we do. I don't claim to be particularly smart. I'm no John Solomon, as I say every morning. But I did go to community college, and I did stay at a Holiday Inn. And so, you just have to follow the patterns, and you can
all
see
American
what's about
way
to
to
happen.
go, baby.
That's right.
Yeah.
Everyone follow John Solomon. Obviously, straight up legend. He's got millions of followers, subscribers. It's an extremely popular show, an extremely popular, most important, I would argue, necessary reading at Just the News. Thank you, John. Godspeed.
Thanks. Good to be with you, brother. Thank you.
FBI secretly seizes election records from Arizona's largest county as voting probe expands. I got to tell you, there's a man who is perfect for this subject. Klein, if you wouldn't mind, thank you. Look at that. The great General Flynn, who's joining us live right now to talk this and so many other things going on in the world. Here we go. I don't know, General, are you paying John Solomon? He sets you up perfectly, man.
Yeah, I've been in touch with John a long, long time. I've known John a long time. He's just a terrific investigative journalist. His entire team is extraordinary. He's broken more stories on this. I want people to understand, because I know we were going to talk briefly about maybe the war in Iran and all this other business, but you have a giant audience. You have an audience that pays close attention to everything that's going on, and we are almost a decade into an attempted overthrow of the United States of America. I can't say it any more clearly than that. And it was led by a group of people, principally Barack Obama, former president of the United States, 2 terms, was right at the forefront of it. They tried in 2016. They succeeded in 2020. They failed in 2024. There is going to be clear evidence that's going to come out about foreign interference in our elections that was supported and enabled by people inside of our own government. The level and the depth of infiltration by foreign adversaries inside of the most important parts of our national security apparatus in our government is not a joke. It's not a theory. It is very real. It's been going on for a long time. I do believe that people like Kash Patel, Andrew Bailey, I guess is his name. I don't know him. Pam Bondi, and I would tell you the entire White House, the entire executive branch that Donald Trump put in is overwhelmed. They are overwhelmed, and they're overwhelmed by what John Solomon just laid out. And people can go look at his current article about all these 4 different things. I mean, we don't even hear about Ukraine and Russia anymore. We're barely hearing about Venezuela because Trump gets asked by it, and he says, "Yeah, we're working great with Delcy Rodriguez, who's basically running the same criminal cartel that Maduro ran." we're in the midst of a war in Iran, and God knows how long that's going to last. I've been very clear about how long these things last. It's unknown. At some point in time, President Trump's going to have to figure out what are the conditions for victory and declare it, and then say it and pretend like as though we actually achieved it. I'm at a place now in my life, and I'm also at a place now where we are in this country. We are still in the midst of this overthrow, Benny, and your audience needs to know it. And I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. I'm not a lightweight in this business. This is who I've been and what I have been doing for my entire life. They came after me as target number one early on in the 2016, 2017 Trump administration for very good reason. And it's not just the left. There are elements inside of the Republican establishment in Washington, D.C. and other parts of our country that are so against Donald Trump. They so want him to go away. They want this notion of MAGA to just disappear. And I'm here to tell you that it is not. The American people, like the Japanese said, don't awaken the American giant, right? The sleeping giant. Well, the American people, because of people like you, Benny, and others, there are other independent voices out there that have stood on the hilltops, the mountaintops, and have said, we're going to say what we believe needs to be said. We're going to bring people on our shows. We're going to promote these types of things. And the advent of social media, the advent of an expanded internet, artificial intelligence, we are not going to stand down from this overthrow because it is very, very real. They're not done. And this is where Trump has to have, these moments of reflection, like Abraham Lincoln or many other presidents in the past when they were under really trying times. He's going to have silent moments of reflection, whether or not he, speaks to God Almighty or talks to a wall. But he's going to have these moments of reflection where he's going to have to say, what is it that I need to do as president of the United States that only I can do to be able to preserve the Constitution of the United States of America? Never mind protecting and defending it, but preserve it, because it is a very fragile experiment, as our founders taught us. And we are in a moment of history right now that I think if we don't cross some T's and dot some I's right now, never mind what John Solomon just said, but what we're doing over in the Middle East, what we're doing in Venezuela, Europe, but particularly right here at home, if we don't get this right, if we don't hold these people accountable, they will not go away and they will come at us even harder. And that's what I want Trump and his team to focus on, because as I said earlier, and I'll get off my high horse, I do believe that there's a little bit of overwhelming going on here with some of the people that are running these organizations. Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, Marco Rubio, he jokes about how many jobs he's got. Pete Hegseth, Tulsi, all of them. Because below that layer, Benny, and for your audience, below that layer of these great talented people that President Trump put into these really important jobs, below that layer are a bunch of hardcore leftists, communists, whatever ism you want to use. And it's like 95%. There's very, very few people that are following Trump's agenda. They are not. Trump will sign an executive order. Those executive orders will not be adhered to. Hell, we can't even get the Republican Party, the Republican in the Senate or the House, certainly the Senate, to pass an ID check for our voting. I mean, that ought to tell everybody everything as how hard this is going to be. And this fight that we are waging internally, as Abraham Lincoln said, we're not going to die because of an overseas threat. We're going to die because of our own suicide. And he said that at the age of 28 years old. So that has not gone away. And now we are at a place in our history, in our nation's history, at our 250th year mark, where I want to be optimistic and I want to be rose-colored glasses here, but we are being challenged. And, and guys like John Solomon, guys like you are projecting or letting us know about these things. Thank God that we have your voices, and there's other voices out there too. But without them, we'd be listening to the likes of CNN and the mainstream.
That's right.
And we call it mainstream media. It's a fake news media. So anyway,
General, I know that you are up against a hard out, and I apologize that we have to cut this short. I mean, you're welcome to stay as long as you want, but just perhaps then a last question, if I only get one more. Yeah, the raid in Maricopa County. You've done so much. You know, John Solomon just broke some huge news saying that there's going to be news stories that will break soon that will switch the votes of senators on the SAVE Act and will change everything. Can you, and you've done so much work on this, and you worked with the president on it. I know you've flown around the world, and you've fortified the election here from being stolen and rigged in 2024. You don't get enough credit for that. What are they going to find in Fulton? What are they going to find in Maricopa? What is the big kahuna here?
Yeah, I think we're going to find that there are people serving in Congress and serving in other state offices that didn't win those elections. So we have, just like Joe Biden. So we're going to find that they're going to find criminal activities, particularly in as they have in Fulton County and of course Maricopa County. But those are tactics of the broader strategy. But I think what we're going to find is we're going to be looking at the results, the real results, once we, lay them out. And many of them have started to get laid up, particularly in Fulton County, because they're already down into the weeds of that. And we're going to see people that are serving in elected offices that were not elected. That's not a constitutional republic. That's a criminal enterprise.
Yes. Do you think Maduro is going to say anything on this, given that so much of the Venezuelan software, and I know you know this very, very well, was operated by his regime?
Yep. The short answer is yes. And there's others that they have in custody that are also divulging great amounts of information for the first time, because they now know that President Trump means business. I mean, so yes, I think we're already learning a lot of things, and I think that is driving some of the things that we are seeing the FBI, the Department of Justice, doing.
General, our team is telling us that you have to go. We don't want to be rude. You're welcome back. We didn't even get really a chance to talk about Iran. I hope that you can come back and join us for that.
Yeah, maybe another 24 hours. But Benny, thank you so much. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for your great audience, and keep doing what you're doing, because you're one of those big voices out there that we need right now.
Godspeed, General. Everybody follow General Michael Flynn. You probably already do. He's got millions and millions of subscribers. Just one of those guys that changes the world in a good way. Thank you, General.
God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have Rand Paul that is getting queued up to join the program. Senator Rand Paul. Let's be appropriate here. Let's be polite here and use the preferred pronouns would be senator. My preferred pronouns for you would be golden era. Can't have a golden era when you're in slavery, debt slavery. American financing can help you get out of that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are working 40, 50 hours a week just to buy groceries and gas, things you used to be able to afford, credit card companies are charging you over 20% interest for the privilege of just buying the necessities in life. Horrible, and it is designed to crush you, keep you underwater. American financing is doing something about this. They hate these usury rates. They want to help people get out of debt, not stay in debt. Very good. It's actually fundamentally Christian. It's a moral thing to have your house in order, your finances in order, and to not be a debt slave. Give American financing a call. America's home for home loans. 888-528-1219. That's 888-528-1219. AmericanFinancing.net/Penny. Ladies and gentlemen, defiant Iran threatens Trump with elimination. Oh, yay. Here we go. There's been so much, actually, that has gone on over the past day on Iran. It's wild. President Trump said that the war would take 5 days, then 4 weeks, then it would go on until September. Then yesterday, Donald Trump said the war's wrapping up. Now this morning, he's saying that Iran is reaching out to strike a peace agreement. There are multiple reports from the Mideast that Iran is bargaining now. Their new supreme leader is allegedly horribly injured, lost a leg or something, is unconscious, and doesn't even know that he's supreme leader. Is the Ayatollah Khomeini's son? Anyway, the whole thing is, I guess, messy but entertaining and playing out like a soap opera. Not to be glib here, but Iran is now threatening Donald Trump's life again. We know that there have been multiple proven Iranian terror and assassination plots against the president. It is a dire time. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's read here the top line. Let's read the top line here. Iran has warned Donald Trump to be careful not to be killed, eliminated, after U.S. President said he did not believe that the regime's new supreme leader can live in peace. Oh, boy. Mr. Trump said that Iran should brace for death, fire, and fury, keeping the Straits of Hormuz shut before threatening the new leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. He told Fox the supreme leader will be unable to live in peace, not happy with the appointment, warning Iran that they would have the final say on the leader. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, some crazy sights out of Iran. An intense day yesterday where did we see laser weapons being used? I don't know exactly. I don't know. I'm gonna play you some crazy clips here, ladies and gentlemen. Is Donald Trump yesterday saying that we have a new laser weapon and we may just use it. Here we go.
And the laser technology that we have now is incredible. It's coming out pretty soon. Where literally lasers will do the work of, at a lot less cost, do the work of what the Patriots are doing or what other things are doing. The situation was very quickly approaching the point of no return, and the United States found it intolerable, in my opinion, based on what Steve and Jared and Pete and others were telling me. Marco, so involved.
So, President Trump bragging about our new laser weapons. Donald Trump often and regularly saying we have weapons that nobody's ever seen before and nobody can even understand. Here's what happened in Iran last night. The sky turned blue in the dark of night. You can see here. Oh, my. Okay. Okay. Not sure what that is. Want the... hey, Alex, I want the first clip from the asset I just sent. Thank you. Or Klein, if you pop this one up. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're getting Senator Rand. There you go. What? I mean, whoa. Like, look at this. Sorry. Like, what? Do that again, Klein. When the night sky turns into the sunrise. Holy smokes. Crazy. Fascinating to see what happens next. President Trump is allegedly calling now for peace after a phone call with Vladimir Putin. This would be kind of fascinating. Is this all like a massive chessboard play? You know, Putin's in a war that America doesn't want to continue. It's a losing war for Ukraine, obviously. It's a war that has cost us billions and billions of dollars. It's a probably the most unpopular war that America has ever contributed to, certainly in my lifetime. And is this potentially a grand bargain that could be struck? Obviously, Russia is allied with Iran. Iran is getting decimated back to the Stone Age. It's going to be a non-functional country. I mean, frankly, at this clip, could there be some type of grand bargain? We will stop the Ukraine war. You will stop the Iran war. We will have peace in our time. We will draw our little boundaries, and everyone can go back, and rebuild. Right? You get this, we'll get this. Everyone gets their little agreement. Could this be used as leverage? Kind of wild. I don't know. Here we go. President Trump on his call with Vladimir Putin.
Do you approve of Iran's new supreme leader? And secondly, can you tell us more about your call with Russian President Vladimir Putin today?
Yes.
What did you discuss?
Yes, I had a very good call with President Putin. We had a lot of people on the line from our side, from his side. We were talking about Ukraine, which is just a never-ending fight. And look, there's tremendous hatred between President Putin and President Zelensky. They can't seem to get it together. But I think it was a positive call on that subject. And we obviously talked then about the Middle East. And he wants to be helpful. I said, you could be more helpful by getting the Ukraine-Russia war over with. That would be more helpful. But we had a very good talk, and he wants to be very constructive. Yeah.
Okay, well, this is exactly what we were saying. Donald Trump's going to use the Iran war to leverage the end of the Ukraine war. I don't know. Would you be in favor of that? I would. Right? Yeah, kind of. It seems like if you're going to play with all the chips on the board, maybe that's the one that you play. Is the war over? President Trump said, effectively, yes. Listen to this.
And you said it would on Iran. You called it an excursion. You said it would be over soon. Are you thinking this week it will be over?
No,
Are you talking
but soon.
about days?
I think soon.
Okay, and with respect
Very
to
soon. Look, everything they have is gone, including their leadership. In fact, there are two levels of leadership, and even actually, as it turns out, more than that. But two levels of leadership are gone. Most people have never even heard about the leaders that they're talking about. So it's obviously been very, very powerful, very effective.
So he said very soon. Yesterday, President Trump said the war is effectively over. He declared victory. Trump says that he's going to take over Cuba next. My goodness. President Trump threatens to take over Cuba. It could be a friendly takeover. It may not be a friendly takeover. It wouldn't matter. Cuba is right now in a really tough situation. Obviously, it's 90 miles from where we're broadcasting right now. I live in a neighborhood with a ton of Cubans. I live in a city with a ton of Cubans. This is something that's near and dear to my heart. The first day that I moved to Tampa, there was an anti-communism parade down my street. It's like, damn, I moved to the right town. This seems to be far more existential than Iran. Cuba, of course, was used to threaten nuclear holocaust for Americans during the Cold War. Very dangerous to have a regime like a terrorist regime that sits on your border. But that regime, of course, has collapsed and crumbled into absolute nothing. And we traveled to Cuba. It is a nation in abject and total decay, poverty, third world conditions, unlike anything you've ever seen in the Western Hemisphere. It is a collapsed and totally broken society. Everything that you see about Cuba is total and complete propaganda. And now this in total and complete darkness because they got all their oil from Venezuela. They have no oil reserves. They have no food. They have no power. They have nothing. And so what happens with and our CIA knows this, what happens with a starving people and a hungry people is that they revolt against their government. And that's what's happening. It's been happening every single night. So it's a pretty critical moment right now for Cuba. Donald Trump has been saying with regularity that he's going to put Marco over there to be the, warlord of Cuba. And the viceroy of Cuba. Yesterday, President Trump was asked about it. Here we go.
Cuba wants to make a deal.
Yes.
What would the United States get in return for that? And why should Americans trust Marco Rubio to negotiate it?
Well, Marco Rubio is doing a great job. I think he's going to go down as the greatest Secretary of State in history. Look at what we've done as a presidency. Look at what we've done as an administration. They trust Marco, and so do the American people trust. He's been successful no matter where he's been. He also speaks the language, which is always nice and always helpful. But he's dealing, and it may be a friendly takeover. It may not be a friendly takeover. It wouldn't matter because they're down to, as they say, fumes. They have no energy. They have no money. They're in deep trouble on a humanitarian basis. And we don't want to see that, but they were very, very bad to a lot of people.
Down to fumes, says President Trump. With Cuba. Again, it feels like Venezuela and Cuba feels totally different than Iran. What can be said about ridding the world of cartel and drug lords and ridding the world of communist dictators? Hard to be against it, to be honest. You can see the downstream repercussions. Obviously, the Bay of Pigs was a nightmare last time we tried regime change in Cuba. But I just feel like it's a very different ballgame now. Now there is absolutely no functional regime in Cuba. Again, we traveled there. We had our Airbnb raided by government goons that tried to take and steal our SD cards. It is a total and complete evil and collapsed regime. And just go walk around Havana. It's like the saddest thing you've ever seen. Some of the most beautiful architecture, some of the most gorgeous buildings just rotting, falling in, collapsing. Everything is an open sewer, filth, garbage everywhere. I mean, it's a nightmare. I mean, it's a proper nightmare there. And I hope, and pray, for the sake of my neighbors, and I will admit all of my biases here. For the sake of my neighbors, the communism has failed and it shouldn't continue in that island. So I don't know exactly what the Trump administration has with their plans, but I do know pattern recognition. And here's the pattern that we've been seeing, is that when the Justice Department files charges against the leaders of a South American country, the chances that you're going to hear Delta Force knocking on your door at 1 a.m. in the morning as Fortunate Son plays over the mountainsides, it's high. That's the chapter that we're living in. And that's exactly what happened to Maduro. And now we know that the DOJ is planning on filing charges against the Cuban leaders in Havana and the Castro regime. And so they'll be filing charges. I don't know what they are, but that was announced yesterday. So it doesn't have, you don't have to be particularly smart. Again, I went to community college to understand that this is what's going to happen. They're going to probably pull Maduro. They're going to pull like a Venezuela style, like Maduro operation in Cuba. And they're going to yeet the leaders there on that island. So it's going to be fun to watch. It's certainly been an entertaining episode of Trump 2.0. Hegseth giving a review yesterday. Did he talk about the space lasers? Did he talk about the EMP bombs? Did he talk about some people saying it's an arc reactor? It's like an electrical charge that exploded? I don't know. It's crazy still in Iran. This footage is wild. Show it one more time. Look at this. Look at this. Yo. What, is that exactly? That's biblical. That looks like the pillar of fire from the heavens down. And do we have the blue flash, Klein? Some people saying that the blue flash is not a EMP or space laser weapon, but that it is in fact an arc reaction to a high capacity electrical explosion. That's what some people are saying that the blue light is. I guess we don't actually know. Pete Hegseth saying it doesn't really matter because Iran has no offensive capacity anymore, and this tracks. Iran has lost the ability to really fire missiles at all or engage in any kind of defense of its territory whatsoever. The skies and seas are completely and totally controlled by the Americans and the Israelis. Here's Hegseth doing a victory lap here.
Today will be yet again our most intense day of strikes inside Iran. The most fighters, the most bombers, the most strikes. Intelligence more refined and better than ever. So that's on one hand. On the other hand, the last 24 hours have seen Iran fire the lowest number of missiles they've been capable of firing yet. Just the bifurcation, just the trend lines that we talked about on our first briefing. You see, this is not 2003. This is not endless nation building under those types of quagmires we saw under Bush or Obama. It's not even close. Our generation of soldier will not let that happen again, and nor will this president, who very clearly ran against those kinds of never-ending, nebulously scoped missions. Those days are dead. Instead, we're winning decisively with brutal efficiency, total air dominance, and an unbreakable will to accomplish the president's objectives on our timeline.
All right. That's your Iran war update. Klein, I want to make a stinger for that today. We're going to do the Iran war update every single day. I guess maybe we should make a SAVE Act update every single day. The single most insulting thing that I have ever seen said by a Republican leader in recent history is John Thune saying the SAVE Act is simply a paid influencer ecosystem MAGA pressure campaign. We warned you about this snake while he was running, and here it is. John Thune chalks up MAGA pressure on the Save America Act as a paid influencer ecosystem. Let's read. Senate Majority Leader John Thune downplayed the conservative backlash he's facing over the Save America Act, chalking it up to paid influencer ecosystem that is amplifying calls for its passage. Thune cast fresh doubt on Monday that the Senate had the votes to pass the GOP voting bill, as conservative pundits and a chorus of social media personalities, like myself included, have been demanding for this legislation that is supported by a plurality of Republicans and Democrats and blacks and Hispanics and whites, and I think every single demographic in America except for lesbian, transgenders, and wheelchairs in polyamorous relationships in Havana. That's it. So a wild and repulsive and insulting thing that John Thune has said here. Again, I would really like some guidance on what's going to happen next. For that, we bring you the clear, ringing as a bell voice from Rand Paul from inside of the Senate. Right now, Senator Rand Paul joins us live. Senator, thank you so much for joining us. We apologize for some of the technical difficulties.
No problem.
Yeah,
No problem.
Okay, the SAVE Act. I don't want to sit here and talk finances, with you, but I can declare to you right now, I'll swear on a Bible that I haven't been paid a red cent to push the SAVE Act. It's just simply what our audience wants, what the American people wants. And I found it very insulting that John Thune would say that people want it just because they're getting paid.
I think it's more of the same frustration we all have. Can you remember Obamacare? We were all opposed to Obamacare. All the Republicans were. What happened? How come we just kind of gave up on that issue? Republicans vote consistently, at least the voters vote for Republicans to go to Washington to correct the spending and deficit problem, and yet it goes on. A month ago, I introduced an amendment to get rid of the refugee welfare program after I saw the horrendous fraud in Minnesota, the Somali fraud scheme. I introduced an amendment to get rid of $5 billion in refugee welfare program just to stop and say, let's figure out how much has been stolen before we give them any more. I did get 30 Republicans to support me, but 22 opposed me. The SAVE Act, I'm a co-sponsor of the SAVE Act. The vast majority of Republican voters, really all voters, even Democrat voters, think a voter ID is not a bad idea. And yet we get this sort of lame response from leadership. But I would say this is not an anomaly. I would say it's more typical of the frustration that our voters have, but also the conservatives that are here in the Senate. We have the same frustration on a daily basis.
What is to become of the SAVE Act? We're hearing a lot of mixed messaging now. And of course, now John Thune saying that it's just people being paid to be a thorn in my side, a thorn in my paw. It's very annoying. It's very insulting. But this is something that the American people want. I mean, you're able to see the election raids in Georgia and in Maricopa County yesterday. We just had on two guests that were talking about exactly like how critical our election infrastructure is and how China has hacked it. I mean, like explicitly, that information is going to come out. It just seems like a critical time to pass this legislation.
Yeah, I'm for the SAVE Act and for the federal government saying you have to show an ID for federal elections. I will say, though, that each state should act, and we shouldn't give up also on the states acting. For example, in my state, after 2020, I pushed and pushed and pushed, and we now only vote on paper. We have paper ballots 100%. We vote in person, 98, 99% in person. You have to sign an affidavit, and it's a felony. My wife and I went in to vote, and I was going to be in Washington. I voted absentee. My wife said, well, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be in Washington, but she didn't want to sign the affidavit saying she wasn't going to be there because she wanted to obey the law. So she ended up not signing and ended up finally voting in person. But we vote in person, and that is a good way. So But there are many states. Look, Arizona, Utah, all these Western states are mailing out universal ballots. They've been Republican states. Why in the world are they mailing out ballots to everybody? The states also should act, get rid of mail-in ballots, and require an ID. I think Utah and Arizona do not require a photo ID. So, I mean, we really should, while pushing at the federal level, which I'm all for, why don't we also, there are at least 5 Republican states. Iowa is one also that doesn't require a photo ID. So I think it's Arizona, Utah, Iowa, I think West Virginia, and there's one other Republican, North Dakota. All 5 states don't require a photo ID. So in all 5 states that we control, for goodness sakes, let's get rid of it. But let's get rid of universal mail-in balloting. Utah, that is so Republican, is eventually going to flip to Democrat if you keep encouraging the people that are too lazy to get out and work to go vote. And if you keep bringing them ballot after ballot after ballot and then finally filling it in for them. The Democrats do this to get low motivation voters, low information voters, and they get them to vote because they never have to leave their couch. You just keep bringing them ballots. So we should get rid of mail-in ballots. But you know what? The one place we can do it is the Republican states that we control. We should get rid of mail-in ballots and require IDs there. As far as here, I would initially just have a vote. We will lose the vote, but let's make everybody on record as to where they are, all the Republicans. Let's see how the vote goes. If it's 50 to 50, or if it's 53 to 47 and it's along party lines, you still need 7 votes. And then as far as the strategy of going on and making them talk and seeing what happens, we can at least see what happens with it. I'm not 100% convinced that it does work its way through, because there will be vote after vote after vote. There's a possibility that maybe it goes on for months and months and months until it comes to a conclusion. So I'm not positive that it works. But if John Thune wants to get out from behind being responsible for this, schedule the first vote. Let's have the first vote and see where everybody is. Let the Republicans come forward and decide for or against this. And if you can't get all the Republicans on board, I'm not sure the breaking of the filibuster works either. So at least put that forward. If we're missing 3 or 4 Republicans right now on just simply voting on it, then I'm not so sure if you go through this 3-month-long breaking of the filibuster, it is worthwhile. But if he wants to get everybody off of his back, schedule the vote and let's see where people are.
Yeah, well, I mean, why not? And then also you could make them eat it, right, when Democrats vote against it. You can actually call them to the floor and say, you're voting against this. Very popular, the American
Exactly.
people. Our previous guest was John Solomon, and he said, get ready. Something's going to happen with Maricopa County in Georgia. You're going to be able to see in Fulton County and Maricopa County exactly how foreign adversaries have penetrated our election ecosystem to the point of being able to fundamentally rig elections. And that's going to happen, and it's going to flip votes in the Senate. That's what John Solomon just claimed a few minutes ago on our program. Senator, I just want to get your snap take on the FBI raids in Georgia and in Maricopa County. What do you make of them? And have you heard anything like this? Have you ever been briefed on like the foreign influence in the elections, rigging it one way or the other?
So I follow John Solomon, and I think he's had a lot of good investigative work. I followed what he's done with the Minnesota fraud, and so I'm an admirer. I don't know specifically about this. I don't have enough information to comment. I do know that in Arizona, we haven't been able to get the reform we need because we don't control the governorship anymore. But we have controlled, and probably for 15 years, controlled the state house, the state senate, and the governorship, and we didn't do it. We look everywhere, who's the enemy? We find out it's amongst ourselves. It's lack of fortitude, it's lack of resolve, it's lack of principle among Republicans. We expect the Democrats to be no good, but what we really ought to be angry is we don't have Republican resolve to do it. But Arizona is still a disaster because Republicans failed to. We have mail-in ballots everywhere, and then we probably aren't policing the election as well in Maricopa. Georgia's the same thing. Georgia's worse because we still have the state house, we still have the state senate, and we have the governorship. Why would we not have clear state laws saying that we have a legitimate election? I don't know about the foreign involvement. It may well be there, and I'm open to listening to it. But what I do know is it's a failure of Republicans if we don't have legitimate elections. I told them, I went to the National Republican Committee December of 2020. As soon as the election was over, I said, we may have trouble fixing this federally, but every Republican state including some battleground states. Georgia and Arizona are battleground states. Iowa sometimes is too, but we should fix the elections at least in the states we control. I don't know that Georgia has done a sufficient job. They did pass some reform, but I don't know if Georgia has done a sufficient job in policing Fulton County.
So, yeah, I mean, it's like you bring up kind of a grand point here, which is that Republicans never get what we vote for. And what I would love to see the polling on this, like, should we be funding Somali fraudsters? Should we be funding the bastard kids of Syrian immigrants here that like threw pipe bombs and nail bombs, at peaceful protesters in New York? That's what happened. They're ISIS members, and we brought them here.
Right.
We paid for that. We paid for that to happen. Those bombs explode. They could kill 50 people. They could kill a lot of cops. Because that's what the bombs were. The bombs were thrown at the feet of the police. That's what all the video and photos show.
The Somali fraud thing has prompted me, I've been looking at this for a while, but prompted me to look even more thoroughly at how we try to fix or police the system.
Please.
Most of the welfare programs that we have in our country are both state and federal. You sign up at the state level, but most of it's paid by the federal level. So food stamps, 75, 80% of the food stamp cost, maybe 90% of the food stamp cost is by the federal dollars, but you sign up at the state level. Most welfare programs are that way. So does anybody believe that if we were to audit the program in California for food stamps, Medicaid, and all these other programs, Medicaid, the vast majority of Medicaid is paid for by the federal government, but you sign up at the state level. What we have to do at the federal level is we need to pass legislation that goes back in and says, we want to check everybody. And the computer programs, AI can do this in probably hours if we commission them to do this. Let's look at everyone receiving and find out if they're here legally, because if it actually works both ways. If you're here legally, you're not eligible for 5 years for most welfare. Do you think California is policing that? If you're here illegally, you're not eligible ever for welfare. If we ran through these programs, what percentage of people do you think we would find are either here illegally, which makes them ineligible, or actually they're here legally, but have been here less than 5 years and they're ineligible? I don't think they've ever checked. Do you think when you go to sign up for Medicaid, they're showing a green card with a date on it in California? Do you think when you sign up for food stamps, there's any kind of proof of citizenship? In fact, California has gone the opposite way. You can get driver's license in California. You also can do this in Minnesota. I had the majority leader of the state house, or the minority leader, the Republican here recently from Minnesota, and he said they had a bill to try to put on your driver's license whether you were a citizen or not, and the Democrats voted party line against Republicans to have no indication of whether or not you're a citizen, because the driver's license is used for voting in many states. It's also how you may well get food stamps, or how you may well get welfare. But is anybody asking in these Democrat states whether or not you're a citizen, whether or not you're here legally or illegally? Because even the legal people aren't supposed to get welfare until they've been in the country 5 years. They're not supposed to come to our country for welfare. So there's a huge amount of dollars in policing that can go on. All of this needs to be addressed. But we also have to address the fact that the Republicans vote for all these spending bills. All of the spending bills, the ones that people say, oh, why is Rand Paul against this? Why won't Rand Paul join the team? Shirts and skins, we need to be for the Republican spending bills. Well, because it includes $5 billion for welfare for refugees who shouldn't be getting welfare, and who just ripped us off of $9 billion in Minnesota.
I don't mean to get too technical here, but this seems like something that could be very quickly ameliorated by HHS, FDA, Department of Agriculture. You could put in now systems. I mean, if it's federal dollar, 90% federal dollars, you certainly wouldn't have to pass a bipartisan bill to get that done.
Yeah, I think you could do it through executive action. And I know some of the folks in DOJ, there still are some of them left in government. A lot of them have left over time, but there still are some left there. And some of them are, computer whizzes that Elon brought in. And if we could direct them towards that, it is trickier when the states are involved. But the vast majority of these programs, the federal government picks up the tab and the state governments have the prerogative over the information. So the question is whether or not we have all the data. But I think we should. We should go through all of the data and find out who is abusing the system. If we found $9 billion, if actually somebody who was not paid, who was a young man who went there on his own, found $9 billion in fraud, don't you think we're going to find quadruple that in a California or a New York?
Yeah, it's absolutely critical. JD's got to get on it, man. He's in charge. Dude, get it. This is something that, of course, so many of the Republican voters want. So many Republicans, it's amazing. You bring this up. Republicans keep voting for these policies like voter ID, ending fraud and waste, cracking down on criminal and legal immigration. That's insane. From countries that hate us. And then putting Dr. Fauci in prison. And we can't get any of those things. You've referred Dr. Fauci for a criminal referral to the DOJ. Any update, Senator?
We sent 2 criminal referrals to Merrick Garland, and not surprisingly, they were ignored in the Biden administration. We've sent 1 referral very quickly to Pam Bondi, and it's been pretty much ignored also. Now, what she would probably argue, she's never talked about it publicly, she would argue that he's been pardoned. But I would push back and say, well, why don't you indict him and challenge the pardon? And I don't know that they will win. They might lose on the pardon. I think the power to pardon is fairly unlimited in the Constitution for the president. I do think, though, that there's an argument that you have to pardon individuals. You can't pardon categories of people. Some of the Biden pushback is like he said, well, we told him we were pardoning this group of people. He may not have known all the individuals, but he was pardoning a group of people. I think that could be challenged. Whether or not an auto pen signature is sufficient for pardon could be challenged. And you lose, you lose. Some people don't want to take on a trial because they say, oh, we'll lose. But I think it's worth taking. And I think Fauci's case is actually much simpler than many, because what he's being accused of is fairly simple. Lying about gain of function, destroying records, and encouraging others to destroy records. They're fairly concrete. We have the examples. We've been through tens of thousands of documents to find this. And I think we have the receipts on this. And it'd be I think it'd be a good case to challenge the pardons as well.
Yeah, I was like, it'd be really nice to see some movement on that. I've been told to be patient. I've been told that there's a lot going on. There's obviously a big machine at work. I did want to ask you about the machine at work when it comes to regime change and other executive and military engagements around the world. And perhaps, you sit in security briefings, you have a security clearance, you know more than I do. And, you're somebody who's obviously been against international interventionism for your entire career. And so, your take on Venezuela, Iran, and then what seems like is about to pop off any day now, Cuba. Maybe they have that one queued up for this weekend. Big, fat, loaded question, but Senator, we're interested in your take.
When I look at it from several perspectives. Number one, a constitutional perspective. At our constitutional convention in the Federalist Papers, they debated back and forth whether or not the power to go to war, to initiate or declare war, would be with the president or with Congress. And to a person, the founding fathers were unanimous. From Hamilton on one part of the spectrum to Jefferson on another part of the spectrum, they all agreed that initiation of war should start with the president, would start with Congress, not the president. Now, there were always exceptions to this, even in the early days, and a lot of people don't quite get this. They're always like, the Barbary Pirates, but the Barbary Pirates. Well, yeah, there is always an exception to the rule of initiating war if it's an imminent threat. And that's why some of the arguments you've heard for Iran, well, there was an imminent threat that they would attack us. If Israel attacked them, that they would attack us. I don't really think there was an imminent threat of an attack from Iran. People say, well, they've been at war with us for 47 years. Well, yeah, but that doesn't sound very imminent. It sounds like if it's been going on 47 years, you have time to ask Congress to declare war. People say, well, we don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. I don't want them to have a nuclear weapon, but we were told last summer that we obliterated their nuclear stockpile. We obliterated their ability to create nuclear weapons. We're told they could have a nuclear bomb within a week. Well, we've been told that. You can look at clips. For 25 years, we've been told they're 1 week away. So that, I wonder if it's more of a scare tactic and less of a reality. The bottom line is we're also told that we are going to free the oppressed people of Iran. Look, I hope and wish for them to have freedom, but if our foreign policy is to free oppressed people, we would never end. The wars would never end. There's oppressed people in Tibet, the Uyghurs, the Russians oppress people, the North Koreans oppress people. If our foreign policy is to go wherever it takes to free oppressed people, there is no end to that. And so I don't think that should be our foreign policy. And I think when you weigh the danger of what will topple America, what will be the ruination of America, I think the debt is a greater threat than Iranian soldiers coming up through Mexico or sending their navy to New York City. They frankly can't and won't, and it really, frankly, isn't a threat. Are they good people? No, they're bad people. Do we want them to have a nuclear weapon? Absolutely not. But I think in the end that, they're already talking about, the president wants $500 billion increase in military spending. We spend $1 trillion, which is more than the next 10 countries combined, and he wants to increase that by 50%, $500 billion. They're talking about immediately needing $50 billion. And they said, well, while we're at it, since we're spending money, Ukraine probably needs some more. We gave them $200 billion already. And they also said, well, the farmers need more too, because they're being hurt by the tariffs. So why don't we pile on another $15-20 billion for farmers, maybe another $15-20 billion for Zelensky, and then another $50 billion to replace the missiles that we expended. None of that to me sounds fiscally conservative. And so I'm going to remain where I am, but I also admired Donald Trump. I thought Donald Trump was a lot different than the Bushes. He represented so much different and better, and I think in many ways still does. But I'm going to continue to advocate for the Donald Trump who didn't advocate for regime change.
Yeah, I mean, you can hear, clearly your advocacy has worked in a way, because all yesterday, from Hegseth to Trump in multiple press conferences, there was a emphatic and very vocal shout against forever war. And it's like how they all let off with, this will not be a forever war. So I don't know. The president loves golfing with you. Obviously, he has your phone number and Lindsey Graham's. So I guess we'll see who wins this round.
Yeah. That we will. No, I think his instincts are actually still very good. And people, criticize me for having some opposition and some discussion with the president, but I think his instincts are still good. I think some of the people around him, I worry when John Bolton is agreeing with him. The fact that John Bolton loves this makes me worry that it might not be the best policy.
It's a good way to live life, actually. That's one of the golden rules of life I will teach my sons. Like, don't ever agree with something John Bolton agrees with. But we will obviously have them agreeing with Rand Paul, fiscal responsibility, and keeping this country away from the thing that will truly kill it, which is our national debt. Please follow Rand Paul. He's got 6 million subscribers here on X and millions others across platforms, and he's just one of those guys who truly does stick to his guns and fights back. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
President Trump says he will not sign other bills until the SAVE Act is signed. Nice. Great job, Scott Pressler, says Donald Trump on Fox and Friends, talking about the filibuster. Talking filibuster in order to pass the SAVE Act. It's an 88% issue with all voters. It must be done immediately. It supersedes everything else. It must go to the front of the line. I, as president, will not sign other bills until this is passed. And not the watered-down version. Go for the gold. Show voter ID, proof of citizenship, no mail-in ballots except for military, illness, disability, travel, no men and women's sports, no transgender mutilization for children. Do not fail, says Donald Trump. Well, that's what I, voted for. That's what I voted for. I wasn't sure what I was going to get. Speaking of what we voted for, I wasn't sure what I was going to get with Rand Paul asking him questions about Iran. It seems like he's really thought it through and was actually complimentary of the president and how he's engaged and done it with restraint, I think, right? Kind of, if you live in Tehran, you might think differently, but I think this is quite fascinating. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, what do the markets say about the SAVE Act and Senate control? It is, I think, universally linked, actually, having control of the Senate collapsing now for Republicans. The potential for control of the Senate used to be way up near the 80% mark back in November, and then Democrats have been whittling that down as we have engaged in levels of idiocy and weakness truly untold in human history. Okay. Can the Senate pass the SAVE Act? Well, the SAVE Act might save some Senate seats. It's incredible. You could save yourself here by doing it. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we can't save ourselves. Only Christ can save us. We are on a mission to be humble. And through all of this, through all the Iran coverage and everything like that, we've tried very hard to not lose our minds and not lose our skulls and not clip farm, and to be true, being a 3-time Trump supporter, to know that there is wisdom and there is information and there is a system that exists outside of my poor understanding, and that you can remain humble and smart and not lose your head when everybody else is losing their minds, and you can sort of take the information as it comes. The reality is that this morning there is like signal after signal after signal from the Iranian regime that they want it to be done. They want like uncle, like it's done. We have no more air defense. We have nothing. We want it to be done. Agree to like not creating a nuclear weapon? Yikes. I mean, that's kind of a W. End the Ukraine war while you're at it? That's a W. Reset the global order? That's a W. Prove that Russia and China were bad allies, bad friends, that their tech is garbage? That's a massive W. Take Cuba while you're at it? W in the chat, boys. But listen, man, so it's what today's verse of the day is about. Jeremiah 17:7. Blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in the Lord. My confidence is not in myself. I am constantly trying to humiliate and embarrass myself on this program and to tell you that, like, I didn't go to Harvard and I don't have credentialism. We're just hardworking Midwest boy, okay? We're just a hardworking boy from the cornfields and hog farms of the Midwest. That's it. That's it. Just a little bit of grit. The only thing special about me, and it can be found in Christ alone. And I believe in our Lord and Savior, and you should too. Be the one who trusts in the Lord. You will have confidence if you do that. The Lord is everlasting. He created you. He doesn't need you. He doesn't need me. God is almighty. He doesn't created the universe. He doesn't need a Benny, right? Like, he created me for a reason. There's a purpose behind it all. And that's something really special. And your life is sort of an exploration of what is that purpose that God created you for and put you on this earth for. What an exciting exploration. And God's got your back. Roll with us, ladies and gentlemen. On to victory that is assured. It's your boy Benny. See ya.
Get out of my dojo, goat!
TV screen, stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to life. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light.